Day I wake up, the purpose of my day is to make sure my children have a better life. With my oldest daughter, I did prepare for the first 4 years of college with her. I started when she was in kindergarten. I was very young when I had her. I did not know she was going to go on for her master's. I wasn't prepared for that. I did not know she was going to want to go to law school. But when she told me about it, I just encouraged her, yes, okay, great, what do you need to do?
What Marcella's daughter needed to do was take out a $46,000 loan.
I'm trying to work as hard as I can, because then after she finishes it's going to be over $200,000.
Wait a minute. Marcella started out with a $46,000 loan, and now it's $200,000?
Most of my salary is going into paying off my student loans right now. But even with that, after 4 years of residency, I'm going to basically be in $50,000 more debt.
I've talked to people where they say, I've been paying my student loans for years. I've been making all my payments, I've been doing it on time, and yet I owe more now than I did at the beginning. What is that?
That is the phenomenon of compounding interest.
Okay, let's stop here for a second because compounding interest can be pretty tricky to understand. Here's what you need to know. While most loans make you pay a small amount of interest, compounding interest charges you interest on interest, making your balance grow exponentially and quickly get out of control.
If I were the only person with student debt, I may say, gosh, I really messed up here. But then when it gets to like 45 million people, they're like, okay, maybe this is systemic. Maybe this isn't just a couple of people who made bad decisions. Maybe this is actually an orchestrated scam.
I'm convinced that this system was rigged to create the very crisis that we're in today.
That's when I learned about a piece of this puzzle that got very little attention, but would change everything. If you could point to one thing about the student debt system, one thing you would change, what would it be?
Bankruptcy.
What do you mean?
It is, for all intents, impossible to discharge student loans in bankruptcy.
Wait, I thought that all debts can be discharged through bankruptcy.
Except for student loans. In 1998, they essentially took bankruptcy protections permanently away, for all time, from federal student loans.
Could this be true? And isn't bankruptcy a bad thing? I think the first time I heard the word bankrupt was from watching Wheel of Fortune. The audience goes, "Aw," and you lose all your money. And I just assume that's something I don't want.
Well, I've had many clients post-bankruptcy go on to buy houses, which they've never been able to do. I've had 2 clients actually become multi-millionaires.
How hard would it be for me to discharge my student loan debt through bankruptcy?
It's impossible.
I guess bankruptcy is reserved only for the truly neediest cases. All right, to be fair, they do deserve a fresh start. Mostly. But student borrowers deserve that option too. Now that doesn't mean everyone's going to run out and file bankruptcy, or that they even should. There's something much bigger at play here.
In the absence of the threat of bankruptcy, you open the door for widespread abuse by the lenders.
Without bankruptcy as an option, college lenders now frivolously lend out as much money as they can to anybody who wants to apply, because repayment is guaranteed. It's up to the student to pay it back no matter what. There is no bankruptcy option.
The lenders know you can't run, you can't hide. So this essentially gives them a license to steal.
When lenders have no incentives to restrict who they're lending to or how much to loan out, guess what happens to tuition costs?
The colleges raise their price essentially at will.
And you're paying for it. And college lenders know that. So the more obscene the tuition and the more ridiculous the gimmicks that colleges play, the richer college lenders become.
So just having the threat of bankruptcy forces the lenders to behave rationally and with a modicum of good faith.
And without those bankruptcy protections, we're left with a self-perpetuating system of greed.
From the outset, this was a legislatively manufactured crisis.
It was the 1998 reauthorization of the Higher Education Act.
The Senate will now vote on the adoption of the conference report accompanying H.R. 6.
Mr. Biden, Mr. Bingaman, Mr. Durbin, Mr. Feingold, Mrs. Feinstein, Mr.
Was there like an uproar when this happened? Was this like a big headline at the time?
There was no headline. In fact, I don't think most congressmen even knew that it happened until probably weeks, months, or maybe even years afterwards.
The bill I will sign in a few moments will enhance the economic strength of America.
They did this massive change to the economy that would affect all these people, and no one noticed?
It was very sneaky what they did. It was 2 lines slipped in conference committee under the dark of night.
There it is. The 2 lines of legal mumbo jumbo that would alter the economy for multiple generations. Almost entirely.
Technically, the bankruptcy code says if it represents an undue hardship, you can get a discharge.
Undue hardship? That shouldn't be too hard to prove.
Well, the courts have interpreted that saying. That means there's no hope of repaying.
What do you mean there's supposed to be no hope?
They have to have such a condition you'd never want to have to get the student loan discharged.
What do you mean? What kind of condition?
Well, they might have serious cancer, physical disabilities.
So, well, let me understand this. The way to get rid of student debt right now is to have cancer? That's probably the best way?
Well, unfortunately, that would be a help.
Okay. Who is responsible for this craziness?
There's no name that I can find attached to who did it. Nobody seems to be willing to step up and take the credit for it.
Wait. Nobody put their name to it? We don't actually know who did this?
No. It's like a whisper in the wind. I don't know.
This is something that bears repeating. According to Allen, everything from ballooning student debt to spiraling college costs can be traced back to this one 2-line provision in a 1998 law, and no one knows who's responsible for it. What?
I would like to know who slipped these 2 lines into that bill that took bankruptcy uniquely away. I think that is the $2 trillion question. And I think that person needs to do something to make good.
We now had a whodunit on our hands, and a mission right in my wheelhouse. I would find and confront the person responsible and demand they help me get this disastrous law changed.